questions? Cool. So let us quickly now finish off the cluster 4 and 5, which is the auditor's provisions. This will definitely come. It will definitely help all of us either in audit or law. The old guys, it will come both in law and audit. New guys, it will be linked to law somehow here and there, because that's why I'm not going to sit and do all the audit related stuff today, definitely not. But what we are going to do is the law related part of the auditor's provisions, which will really help us to in auditing. And every single time questions have been asked without fail. There will be no question paper without a question on these things. And if as prospective chartered accountants, if we only don't know chapter number 9 and chapter number 10, then there is no point. Chapter 9 is accounts, chapter 10. Chapter 9 I need to do the future things, like for board meetings, etc. I will have to derive from chapter number 9, accounts. That's the reason we have to do it. Why? Because I will be talking about board meetings and suddenly I will talk about board report. Board report is in chapter 9. Then one subsection of chapter 8 also we have to do, that is dividend. So, though it is kind of, may or may not come in law, but 100% it will come in auditing. And those of you are doing old syllabus law, 100% it will come in law also. So, that's one question for sure, without a doubt, it will be there. So, let's quickly finish it off. Only I will be doing the important areas. Obviously, we can't do each and everything, but this we need to know quickly. Tell me guys, chapter number 10. When I ask you at night, 12 o'clock, I will wake you up and tell what is chapter number 10. Section 141, you tell me, you should be in a position to tell. Tell me guys, what is chapter 10 auditors? There have been quite a few changes, minute points which probably you may not have realized. So this and Aarti ma'am's classes, if those of you are attending, will add obviously lot of value, because she's only going to do so many amendments have come in auditing this time. I was just seeing that November RTP, never ending, auditing, turning pages, never ending. So many amendments. In that 285 pages or that 182 pages, I think some 100 pages is auditing only. Crazy. Yes, so chapter 10, 139 it starts with, ends at 148. Tell me, 139 is what? Appointment of audit. 140, removal plus resignation. 141, disqualification. 142, why we are all dying here, remuneration. 143, duties. Now this part I will not be doing obviously, because duties is hardcore auditing, right? 144, prohibited services. 145, yes, signing the audit report. 146, attending the meeting. 147, yes, consequences for not. 148, no one cares unfortunately, cost audit. It's like that ignored child in a family. Yes, 148, cost. Simply you have to put something, okay, last section you put. After consequences, what will be there? Think about it. Consequences is the end, no? Then they realize, oh, cost auditor we forgot, add 148. So unfortunately it's like the ignored child. 148, cost audit. You see every section it ends with consequence. Here also they ended, then they forgot about 148. Oh, cost auditor was there. Add 148, cost auditor. Then they said cost auditor, they didn't know what to write. Mutatis mutandis, everything will apply to them. That's it. Same thing. Done. So just like our directors, when they are entering the company, they have to, what do you say, check the disqualification. For auditor also I need to check the disqualification. How? 141. So let's quickly go through 141 section. So let's read quickly 141 and discuss all the special points, so that this you have been studying from IPCC, then every day in the office also, but then some hidden points here and there would help us. Let's read. First one. A person shall be eligible for appointment as an auditor This is the only reason why all of you are sitting here. As simple as that. Not even this section, only this one word. Yes. If this word was not there, a person shall be eligible for appointment as an auditor if he is a chartered accountant. Only is not there. So BCom also, no tension. But the word only if he is a chartered accountant. And can all chartered accountants become auditors? No, you should have a valid COP. That is as per the CA regulation, you should have a valid COP. Provided that a firm whereof majority of partners practicing in India are qualified for appointment may be appointed by the firm name as the auditor. Now, again, all the quick points. 10 auditors are there, 6 are practicing in Dubai, 4 are practicing in India. Can I appoint this firm? Why? Majority? Wrong answer. Read again. Majority of partners are practicing in India. Where are they saying? They are saying majority of partners who are practicing in India must be qualified. Are they saying majority should practice in India? No. Correct. That's a hidden points is what we have to see. Are you getting my point? It doesn't say majority of partners are practicing in India anywhere. It says majority of partners practicing in India are qualified. Means what? 3 out of 4 here in this example must be qualified. Does it mean 3 should be CA, 1 should be BCom? No, all 4 must be CAs, but the other points of 141 are there. No, that security, all those things, at least 3 should follow. If 188 takes the best price for bad framing, second prize goes to 141. That's how it is. It's kind of badly framed. We'll move ahead and see. You'll realize. Second one easy. Firm including LLP also can do so. LLP is a body corporate. But here the following persons are not eligible. That is, body corporate is not eligible. But still other than LLP they have given. Limited liability partnership can become the auditor. Because there again in LLP also, if there is any personal liability, you can't take protection under the corporate veil of LLP. Who all are not eligible? Of course, body corporate. Then officer or employee of the company, person who is a partner or who is in the employment of an officer or employee of the company. Means what? If for example there is X Limited and I have CA X here, who is the director. CA Y could be the finance CFO, not a director but a employee. X has a firm XPJ with XPJ as partners. Y has a firm YQR as partners. CAM happens to be a employee of that firm, audit manager. CAN happens to be an employee of this firm. Who all cannot audit? Officer of the company, employee of the company, partners of the officer of the company, partners of the employee of the company, employee of the officer of the company, employee of the employee of the company. None of these guys can do the audit of X Limited because of independence. X, Y, P, J, M, Q, R, N ruled out. None of them can become the auditors. This is 141.3, A done, B and C. Then 141 3D1. Check out 141 3D1. 141 3D1. Person who is relative or partner. Person who relative or partner. Does what? These things. Let us see now 141 3D1. So left hand column must be himself, relative, partner. Who all are covered? Himself, relative, partner. What is covered? Security or interest. Himself, relative, partner is one. What all is covered? Security or interest. In which companies? Holding company, subsidiary company. There is one more subsidiary company. So I am the proposed to be the auditor of Y Limited. So X Limited, Z Limited, associate company A Limited, then one more subsidiary S Limited. If I want to be the auditor of Y Limited, me, relative or partner, should not hold security or interest, not just in Y Limited, but also holding company, subsidiary company, associate company, subsidiary of the company to which I am also a subsidiary. I am barred from being holding the security. Security means as per SCRA. Which means if I hold even one debenture of S Limited, I cannot be the auditor of Y Limited. If I hold one preference share also of A Limited, cannot be the auditor of Y Limited. That's how strict it is. Relative is the same definition of 2 subsection 77. One generation up, one generation down, and your siblings. And your one generation down's respective spouses. In the CPT, they ask for 3 marks relative definition, and you should see the answers. You will quit CA. Right, mom, dad, then father, mother. Mom, dad already over. And then brother 1, brother 2, brother 3, brother 4. You have to fill the pages, no 3 marks. And then okay, mom, dad, okay, father, mother also fine. Then they don't know what to write. Father's wife. Mother's husband. They have actually written, not kidding. 3 marks they have to fill, no. So that's the thing. Anyway, it's just very simple. Those are the things. Himself, relative, partner. IPC fellows are awesome. Security or interest. That's the thing. This X, Y, Z, A and S Limited. Now, relative also, if he holds one share, will you have to quit? No, for relative, thankfully, they have given face value, not market value, asked in the exam, 1 lakh rupees. They'll say face value 1,10,000, market value 95,000. Their confusion, market value or face value. Correct, it is face value 1 lakh. Up to 1 lakh, no problem. If the and one doubt here is it per relative, per company, all relatives, one company, one relative, all companies? That is still not clarified. In the exam, they will not give so much, they will simply say relative. But practically, it's still not clarified. Should I see one relative, all companies holding put together? He may have some 20,000 in X Limited, 40,000 in Z Limited. Should I see that? Or should I see all relatives in one company? Or all relatives in all companies put together? Technically, it is one relative only. Per relative, you need to check this limit. But anyway, we do not know that. They have not given anything as of now. By chance, he holds more than 1 lakh rupees, then corrective action must be taken within 60 days. MCQ, 60 days from dash. 60 days from the day the auditor came to know. 60 days from date of acquisition. 60 days from date of appointment of the auditor. Now these are the MCQ questions that they can ask, which will always miss out. We know 60 days. From which day we don't know? 60 days from? Is it date of exceeding or date of acquisition, that is, or is it date of appointment of auditor, or is it date of the auditor coming to know that they have exceeded? If you say date of coming to know, he'll say I never knew about it. Mother promise, I'm telling you, I didn't know about it. No, it is 60 days from the date of acquisition. Means 60 days from the date where you exceeded it actually. 60 days from the date of acquisition. What should I take? Corrective action. What corrective action I can take? I can ask that fellow to transfer to his spouse. For example, my brother is holding, I can ask to transfer to the spouse. Because brother's spouse is not my relative. That's the only corrective action I can take. Again, asking relative, just because you're a relative, how is it interest is still something which is absurd. There are, in India, they have analyzed there are almost 53 or 57% of the property disputes is because of sibling rivalry, all those things. Now, let's say if I'm not on talking terms with my brother, with my sister, they know that I'm becoming the auditor, they for sure they'll go buy shares, more than 1 lakh. Correct? That's the thing. So the just relationship is absurd. It's very difficult to subscribe that, okay, only if you are a relative, then you have that interest. Because as per the statistics, more than half of all the property cases is because of rivalry, sibling rivalry, and that fights, all the property dispute between siblings. So that's the problem. But they have based their entire premise based on the concept of blood relationship, which is kind of absurd. Anyway, himself relative partner, that's about this one. If you see 2 and 3, 141 3D2 and 3D3, they speak something about indebtedness. Very interesting to know here, himself relative partner, what is the mistake that they have done? All of us are partners. Okay, your relative is holding shares, more than 1 lakh, assume. You are coming for appointment, personal capacity, but of course for the firm. Are you liable? Are you eligible? No. I will come. I am coming. So first test himself. Am I holding 1 lakh? No. Is my relative holding? No. Is my partner holding? No. So I am qualified. Like that you will be qualified. Like that all others except that fellow will be qualified. Majority are qualified, so firm can be appointed. As I told you, second prize goes to 141. Correct? It's absurd. It doesn't say directly or indirectly. It says what? Himself relative part. And mind you, it does not say himself relative partner is disqualified. They say himself relative partner is holding. Am I holding? No. Relative holding? No. Partner holding? No. At least they could have told himself relative partner directly or indirectly holding. So some problem in the drafting. Done. Yes. Correct. That is one more doubt actually. First of all, doubt is all relatives one company, one relative all companies, all relative all companies. In the company means, is it the group? Is it that company? Or is it the holding company? Not given. These are all some gray areas in this particular thing. Nobody is following this because they are all busy with other things. Even CAs don't follow all this. But once the MCA now is concentrating on directors, very soon, now actually it's slowly shifting to auditors. All these scams, ILFS, Reliance thing, all these things, DHFL, all because of all those things, slowly the focus is being shifted to auditors. And then all these will come out now. Till now it was not. They took 50 years to actually invoke this 164 disqualification. That's why people were like, I know then nothing will be done with. They gave a condonation of delay scheme, they didn't bother. Then it happened, 1,76,000 directors didn't deactivate it. Now they got a stay order and now they are, but still it's not reactivated still. And not only that company, all the companies in which they are directors, if you deactivate the DIN only, what you will do? Nothing can be done. Now also they have told, if you have more than 20 companies, I'm going to deactivate your DIN. Nothing can be done then. Good provision actually. Yes, check out 3D2 and 3D3. Interestingly, the first and the last column remain the same. Only the second column changes. What is the second column in 2 and 3? Indebtedness. Direct indebtedness. More than 5 lakh rupees. Indirect indebtedness means guarantee or security more than 1 lakh rupee. How they are asking questions now? November 17 is a good paper to show you. Solve this. 4 marks. If not in law, they'll ask in auditing. So how does it matter? Same thing. What do you think, guys? Oh, that is business that you live. I'm talking about indebtedness here. See, left hand column remains the same. Himself, relative, partner. So in Apollo, himself, not Apollo, which is one. Voice data, Aircel, whatever it is. Even if you add everything, how much it's coming up to? 5 lakhs. 5 lakhs exactly if you have. Qualified, disqualified. Like that they are asking now. How will you remember whether it is exceeding 5 lakh, less than? Now we know, guys. Now, just now we studied. Think about the exam. So that's why all these exceeding, you know, if you remember, if they ask you exactly 1 lakh face value security, what you will write? Qualified, because it is up to. Correct? Here also it says up to 5 lakh, no tension actually, only exceeding 5 lakh. So it is exceeding 5 lakh. Indirect indebtedness means what? My friend has taken a loan from the company, I have given guarantee to the company. Again, the absurdity of this section. You and your friend, both of you are chartered accountants, both of you want to be auditor of the company. Your friend has taken 4 lakh rupee loan. 4 lakh. You have given guarantee to the company 2 lakh on behalf of this loan, on behalf of your friend. I repeat, you and your friend, both of you are practicing chartered accountants, 2 different firms. Your friend has taken 4 lakh loan from the company. You have, now you are standing as guarantee for that loan. You have given a guarantee of 2 lakh rupees. Like that, other fellows also have given 2 lakhs. So it's basically covered. Now tell me, can you be appointed as auditor? No. Why? Your friend who has actually taken the loan? Second prize goes to. Yes. So that's the thing. Your friend can be appointed. It's weird. It's stupidly framed. So indebtedness means you owe the company. What if they reverse and ask in the exam, the auditor has given loan to the company, 3 lakhs. An auditor wants to, prospective auditor wants to become the auditor now. Reverse indebtedness. Still disqualified. Why? 141 3D1, security or interest. Here you have financial interest. Got it? Security or interest. So actual indebtedness is covered under 141 3D 2 and 3. Reverse indebtedness, where company is indebted to you, means you have a financial interest in the company. You have a financial interest in the company. It's covered under which section? 141 3D 1. Right? Next you see 3E. Person or a firm who, whether directly or indirectly, has business relationship. Now this HRP, there is a small change here. This himself relative partner is changed to what? Person or a firm. Middle column has become business relationship. Last column has become what? Holding, subsidiary, one more subsidiary, associate, subsidiary, then one more, J. So if the person or the firm has a business relationship with Y, the company in which is proposed to be appointed as auditor, or X, Z, A, associate, subsidiary of the holding to which you are also subsidiary, or subsidiary of the associate is also covered. This is one extra point. You will not be allowed to be a auditor. Business relationship was not defined in 2013. They simply said business relationship means any commercial transaction. So picture this, I am the auditor of By2 Coffee Private Limited. The office is on the top floor. Before going, I spend my own money, 10 rupees, drink a cup of coffee, and then go up. Company secretary standing outside. Said, sir, where are you coming from? India. Yes, everything over. What did you drink? Coffee. Where? Here only, your hotel. Sir, sorry, business relationship, get out. That was a stupid definition. Business relationship is any commercial transaction. So if you are the auditor of ITC, if you bite into other things and all, I don't know. Yeah. If you bite into a Sunfeast biscuit, gone. Right? ITC only produces biscuits, no, so it's fine. Then if you buy a classmate notebook, gone. Damn stupid definition. Then in 2015 they realized, oh, this will never happen. So if you are an auditor of Airtel, you can't have Airtel broadband, Airtel SIM, Airtel connection in your house, and that to which you have only paid. Right? So it's very, very absurd. So this is very, very badly framed section. So then later they said, no, sorry, commercial transaction greater than arm's length price. And they gave some companies, telecommunication, airlines, etc. What, etc. and everything. So it says beyond arm's length price. So now if I get one full year worth of coffee free coupons that nobody else is getting, that would obviously be beyond arm's length price. So business relationship is that. Again, it is absurd. Why? Because three of us are partners, right? All three of us are now doing the audit of, let's say, ITC Gardenia Hotel. Your sister is getting married and your sister wants to get married in ITC only. Since you are the auditor, you go approach in your personal capacity and you say, my sister is getting married, what is the best thing you can offer? They say, sir, generally it's 2000 rupees per plate. But since you have been the auditor since a couple of years, you take it at 600, nobody else gets this deal. So you are sorted. 600 is damn cheap. So you get your sister married, all sorted. Now, I am the signing partner, you are not the signing partner. I am walking in now to the ITC, that company secretary is standing there only. He said, sir, you are disqualified. Is it right? No. Why? See the wordings here. Person or the firm. Did the firm enter into business relationship? No. Did I enter into business relationship? No. My partner did. He is disqualified. It's okay. But all other partners are qualified. Absurd, no? Which means even though you go and do all this business relationship beyond arm's length price, only that fellow cannot sign. Because of that majority rule. See, in the old Companies Act, if one partner is, you would have mucked up in IPCC. If one partner is disqualified, everybody is disqualified. That rule is not there now. It is the majority rule, right? So again, it is absurd. So only that partner whose sister got married, he can't sign. All others are qualified because they have not used himself relative partner. If they had used himself relative partner did business relationship, himself, no, I am qualified. Relative, no, relative didn't enter business. But my partner entered into a business relationship beyond ALP. So I am also disqualified. But they have changed the wordings to person or a firm. So again, it is absurd. See, going by the intention, you cannot take up. But the thing is, you can still get away with it saying that I have not broken any law. Show me where I have broken any law here. Person or a firm. Firm never entered into the contract of their wedding and it was personal capacity. Right? And person, he is disqualified. I will not let him come also here, don't worry. But all other partnership firm, all other partners can sign. Any partner can sign. So again it is absurd. Yes, tell me. Huh? Okay. Yes, it is indebted. So even if your credit sale, that indebtedness is 5 lakh rupees. Guess how much it was in 1956 law? $1,000. There was a case where one SBI fellow was supposed to be appointed as the auditor of SBI. He was going for that meeting only. He had an SBI card. He swiped to buy one tie. 2000 rupee tie he bought. Disqualified. Credit card, no. So he had to make good the loss. That was how strict it was, and 1000 rupees in 1956 was huge. So you have to see both the provisions now. If you are more than 5 lakhs, what he's telling is credit sales it has. Arm's length price only, no problem. But it's more than 5 lakh, not possible. I'll ask you another question. You are the auditor of one company with some 20 branches across the country. Your remuneration you have quoted 20 lakh rupees. Now you have raised a request to the company to release 6 lakhs as advance for booking. All the articles and all have to be booked. No, all 20 companies, 20 branches you are going. 6 lakhs rupees you have asked advance, they have given also. Now are you qualified or disqualified? You have not done one day work also, audit, advance, disqualified. You're sorry? Correct, but the thing is, when you even after appointment, okay, one more thing. After appointment, if you are indebted, like I am appointed today, I sign my audit engagement letter. Tomorrow, you give me advance. Like one week, they give me advance. I still haven't started the audit. Appointment letter and all is done. You see 141.4. Where a person appointed as auditor incurs any of the disqualifications after his appointment, he shall vacate his office. So there we have separate sections for disqualification and vacation. Here everything jumbled into one only. Any advance salary taken, remuneration taken beyond 5 lakhs will be deemed to be indebtedness. This is as per ICAI only. Only progressive payment is allowed. You work 30%, take 30%. You work 50%, take 50%. No advance. Advance also take. No one will give fees only. What advance? Assume theoretically, yes. Even after you work 2 years later also, no fees will come. What advance? But anyway, so they are saying that advance also you take, but less than 5 lakh. Progressive payment, no tension. Otherwise, it's going to be a problem. Yes? Tell me. Huh. Huh. Correct? That's what I am saying. That's what I gave an example. Now, one fellow did it. The other 3 fellows are not disqualified at all. Yes. Just he cannot be a signing partner. Others can sign. This also, if my father-in-law is a director, I can actually become the auditor. My father-in-law is not my relative. Though from my father-in-law's point of view, I am the son-in-law or I am the daughter-in-law, I am the relative. But from my point of view, not relative. So it's weird. So it is again, relationship, you cannot base everything on that. Person whose relative is director or is an employment of the company. There was one director who ran an orphanage. One of the persons from the orphanage went on to become a chartered accountant. Director took him only. You come into the company as the auditor. Can you say that he can do his work with full independence? No. That is not covered only here. Correct? So those are the cases that actually should have been covered. So there should have been something saying financial independence, financial dependence at any point of time during his life. Something you should have at least given a guideline sort of a thing, rather than making it so easy like this. So just relationship, again, it's absurd. It is really absurd. Full-time employment elsewhere means what? If I am the audit manager of a firm, I can't obviously be the auditor. In the sense, I cannot sign the audit report. Then this will come to the remaining one. H. Fraud. 10 years. We have already seen. 10 years from the date of conviction. This is what? Person who directly or indirectly renders any service referred to in 144. Either to the company, holding company or subsidiary company. So, auditor cannot work for the management. But this is inserted to curb the practice that is happening since forever, which you also have done, we also have done. Correct? You and your friend will go, your friend will do the accounts, he will give you the voucher, you will tick. Correct? That practice should end. So that generally there will be a, one chartered accountant, spouse will be BCom, combo offer. They'll go to the company, combo, buy one, get one free. So I'll be the auditor, my spouse's firm will become the accountant. So this practice has to end. Still people are doing it. Sometimes they'll send one person only. Left hand you do the accounts, right hand tick. Correct? So all that has to end now. This practice has to end. It is a dangerous practice where independence will be completely wiped out. So for that, thankfully, this provision is there. And disastrous consequence, if you do this, 147. Then if it is willingly and if it is for a fraudulent intent, 147 will link to 447. That's the most dangerous section, 447. So that is why we need to be careful. Now here, this is the ceiling limit for the auditor. How much? 20 companies. Ceiling limit is 20 companies. In 1956 also ceiling limits was 20 companies. But ceiling limit there was 20 public companies. Now the ceiling limit is 20 companies. In 1956 when it was 20 public companies, there were people having 40, 50, 60 private company audits. So the young chartered accountants who did not want to join the industry but wanted to practice went to SCI and said, went to MCA and said, what is this nonsense? Then all big shots only will get the deals. And these big shots also once upon a time were, they had just started out. Now they have become famous because you could keep on taking audits. So what will I do? Then I don't want to join practice. I don't want to practice. I'll rather go for employment. Very few people have jumped into practice, if you see. Very few people in the recent times, they all would want to be secure in their own job because practice is not easy. And now chartered accountant, it's become mundane, more like filing. GST and all, what you will do? Just filing. For 2,000, 3,000, they won't even give you fees. And actually, whatever the company should do, we are doing, sitting and filing stuff. Filing is their work. That's why people are now moving towards consultancy or they are moving towards employment rather than practice. Because practice, it requires incredible amount of patience and you should always have loads of savings. You will not get money. To reach that stage, of course, you need at least 5 to 10 years to reach that stage. And competition is also there. And the problem is they expect us to do everything, end-to-end services, which if you don't give, they'll not come to you. So it's like a vicious cycle. Anyway, so what I'm saying is this thing now, it was the young chartered accountants went and complained. So in 2000, 1956 to 2000, it was not okay. It was fine only because there were very few chartered accountants managing the show. But in 2000, 2001, they said enough is enough. MCA did not change this law, but ICAI gave a restriction. What did ICAI say? Yes, number of companies should be 30 overall. 20 public, 30 overall. Means you can have around 10 private. You can have 20 private also. You can't have 22 public and 3 private. No. This was the scene before. Now they removed everything by telling what? 2013, 20 overall. Means you are missing out on 10. Actually, as per ICR, missing out on 10. Can any law take away your livelihood? No. So all the chartered accountants went and lodged a complaint. You say we are partners in nation building, but you are taking away our livelihood. So this went on from 2013 to 2015. And in 2015, that one date, no, we are always writing that date, 5th June 2015, so many notifications came. In that they told it will not apply, means ceiling, when calculating the ceiling, I should not consider first one person company. In one person company, he is only the member, he is only the director, he is only the watchman, he is only the accountant, everything. If I count him also while doing the audit, then what will I be left with? So one person, no. Then dormant, inactive, dead company, what I'll do? Third, small company, private company with paid up capital less than how much? No, paid up capital 50 lakhs, which can go up to later, not now, later, can go up to how much? 10. Then the other one, turnover 2 crore, can go up to 100 crore later. So they said this, done. Then they said, what about branches, guys? I am the auditor of one main company and some 10 branches. Should I take it as 11? Or let's say I am not the auditor of the main branch only, I am the auditor of other branches. I am not the auditor of head office. Everything to be taken as 1. If I do whole main office plus 10 also, take as 1. If I do 20 branches also, take as 1. What else is excluded? Tax audits. I can do how many tax audits? 60 I can sign. So tax audits also outside the purview of this. What about internal audit? Generally we are only the accountant, internal auditor, statutory auditor, interim auditor, concurrent auditor, all rolled into one. Right? All in one. So anyway, but internal audit also obviously you should exclude. Any other certification, all the other certifications, etc. should exclude. Then one dangerous thing came, private company. Paid up capital less than 100 crore. You open up any point threshold in the entire Companies Act, you will never find paid up capital 100 crore. Impossible. Unlisted public company you will find. Unlisted public company or woman director, that's okay. I'm talking about private company. Private company, have you ever seen 100 crore paid up capital? Barring like 5 or 6 in the entire country, though the majority companies in our country are private, you will never see paid up turnover. You may see 100 crore, but not paid up capital. So don't you think so? Almost all the chartered accountants are safe. If it's less than 100 crore, sorted, no? Right? And 100 crore is absurd. What would have been more practical? Would be 10 crore. Paid up capital less than 10 crore would have been more practical rather than making paid up capital less than 100 crore. You open up the entire threshold limits, nowhere will you find anywhere 100 crore. 10 crore is there, 20 crore is there, 50 crore maximum. That is for other audit committee and for rotation, that's it. You will never find private company 100 crore. This is the only section in the entire, only exemption in the entire Companies Act. Interesting to note, this came on 5th June 15. On 24th June 14, previous year, they had given a notification for public comments. There it was 10 crore. Suddenly it became 100 crore. So there was one corporate law chairman that time from Chennai who was representing our country, our chartered account, our CA Institute. He was a liaising officer between CA Institute and the Parliament and all. He used to speak to the ministers and all that. So he had come to Bangalore once. After he finished his tenure, he had come. So I asked this question, sir, how is it? I mean, I just want to know the logic. How 10 crore suddenly became 100? He said, now that you asked, I'm going to tell. Anyway, it's all our fraternity only. Uh, in open forum, not a private discussion. Some 60 fellows, 60, 70 CS were there. He said that generally the procedure is the notification is done, then the it's still old mindset there. The stenographer will type out everything. It will be sealed in a cover. Before that, one copy will be sent to the joint secretary, IAS officer. He will verify everything. Then one copy will come to this guy, the corporate law chairman of ICI. He will also verify. Then after that, it will go to the parliament. There in the parliament, you see, no, all of those in favor say aye, that will happen. So that is the scene. Now, the thing is, on 5th June notification, so many changes came. So many notifications. Notification of Section 8 company, government company, the Nidhi company, private company, never ending. So, once the joint secretary also had already signed off. So, this guy received the notification and he opened, it was 100 crore. So, he ran to the joint secretary. But 100 crore less or 100 crore is good for the CA or bad for the CA? So he didn't run exactly, slow motion event. Because anyway, if it's passed before only, good, no. So joint secretary said, then they called the stenographer. Stenographer said, sorry sir, I made a mistake. I am not kidding. This is a typographical error. It was supposed to be 10 crore. After this, they changed the notification. Everything should be in words. Till then, it was in numbers. Now you see all notification comes in words. This was a stenographer's error. Instead of 10, an extra 0 I put. I am not kidding, it's true story. One extra 0 I put that. And now to change it, it's a full procedure. We have already gone to the parliament. To again recall it, then it will be only put in the next session. So this guy said, sir, what to do? That joint secretary, yes, well, I leave it, man, 1-0, no, leave it. That's what he told. Anyway, so many changes are there, it's okay, leave it. So the thing is, really, I'm not kidding. He also left good only for us. So it went. Do you think any minister said no? As per the comparison, earlier it was 10 crore, now it is 100 crore. No. All those in favor say aye, everything over. Now the best part was after that. Everybody knows. All the 3 lakh chartered accountants know. Even the people who are there in heaven, they are also seeing. They also know it is wrong. Did anybody raise a query? No. This is called true unity. Right? Nobody, even till today, it's been running since 5 years now. Not even one CA has raised a query. It is 100% stenographer's error. Stenographer would have done CA in his life, failed. Like, I couldn't do, at least let me help my brothers and sisters. Take 1-0 extra. Right? If it was 10 crore, makes sense. Less than 10 crore, exclude. More than 10 crore, so many companies are there. That should be it. Till today, notification not in, no query also raised. That is that code of silence. In the underworld, it's called omerta. That is, code of silence. All these dons, if they are caught, they will not talk only. Like that, we are following omerta. All of us, each and every chartered accountant. That is true unity. Without even speaking, through our eyes only, will communicate. No, don't tell. Right? So that's the thing. Brilliant. I'm still shocked at the unity. Even till today, it will not be changed also. If it's 10 crore, then it's a problem, no? So it's a stenographer's error, glaring error. You will never see paid up capital 100 crore ever in the Companies Act. You see, check out everything. Cool? Yes. That's the thing, guys. That is about disqualification. We'll take a break. After that, we'll continue with the other things. Take a small break, have tea or something, come. Yes, so let's continue, guys. 141 done. Next, we'll do the appointment provisions quickly, only the hidden points there, without wasting much time. Yes, what are the various types of auditors we have? Three types. First auditor, second auditor, third auditor. No. First auditor, subsequent auditor, subsequent auditor. And lastly, who's this guy? Last fellow, casual vacancy. Casual vacancy auditor. First auditor, we have to see whether it is a non or other government controlled company, non-government controlled company. Subsequent auditor also government controlled company, non-government controlled company. Mind you, it is government controlled company, not government company. Government controlled company is a wide term. Government controlled company includes a government company. Yes, government controlled company, first auditor, 139 subsection 7. First auditor, non-government controlled company, 139 subsection 6. Subsequent auditor, government controlled company, 139 5. Very easy to remember, 7, 6, 5. So this should be, we are not doing BCom, we are doing CA, 139 1. 139 1. Right, then 139 1. Casual vacancy 139 8 2. Here 139 8 1. First auditor, government control, non-government. Subsequent government, non-government. Casual vacancy also same. If I see this chart of the first auditor, government control and non-government control company, who will appoint? Yes, first auditor, government company, government controlled company, C and AG to appoint within 60. Failure of the C and AG, board to appoint within next 30. Failure of the board also, shareholders to appoint within 60. So it is 60, 30, 60. Unfortunately, you have to remember the days. Other company, board to appoint within 30 ml, 90 ml this is. Water, 30 days, 90 days. So board to appoint within 30 days of registration, and on failure of the board, shareholders to appoint within 90 days at an EGM. So for other company, it's 30-90, and this is done by whom? BOD, and then this is shareholders. This is C and AG, BOD, and then shareholders. Few quick questions, that is what is important. Question number 1. Articles of the company have prescribed Mr. A to be the first director, but the board has appointed B. A has sued the company. Is A right? No. Why? Yes, mere mentioning of the name is immaterial, because if you see the Bayer Act, it says it shall be appointed by the board. Unlike first director, which says where no provision is made in the articles of the company, that dialogue is not there here. So first director can be appointed by articles, whereas first auditor cannot be appointed by articles. So contention of A is wrong. Second, what is the tenure of the first auditor? Till the conclusion of the first AGM. What if the AGM is not held? Is it the last day on which AGM should have been held, like or director? If you I'm comparing it because it will be easier. First director, shareholder, articles could have appointed. First auditor, articles cannot do so. First director, his tenure is till the end of that, whatever, that first, especially his name is not mentioned, till that EGM, and that EGM is regularized. Here, conclusion of the first AGM. There, if the shareholders do not hold the, if the board does not hold the AGM and all, then on the last day on which AGM should have been held, and at 152.6 we saw, even 161.1 we saw, additional director. Here, a company should not have any situation where there is no auditor. I have to protect the shareholder. That's why I see 139.10. What does 139.10 say? 139.10. Where at any annual general meeting no auditor is appointed or reappointed, the existing auditor shall continue to be the auditor of the company. So you should hold the AGM. If you don't hold, very simple, I'll keep on continuing. And it is the factual conclusion of the AGM. Till the factual conclusion he will be there. And at the first AGM, can this fellow be reappointed? 100% yes. I can reappoint this guy. No problem. This is 139.6, which talks about the first auditor of the government, sorry, other company. It says board of director shall appoint within 30 days. If Act uses the word shall, it is mandatory, right? 139.6 for that matter clearly says that the board of director shall within 30 days. When there is a mandatory force, there cannot be any reason for anything else, which means you have to do it, no choice. If you don't do it, there will be consequences. But interestingly, here the consequences, even if you fail, it's okay. Members will do it next. Who shall within 90 days appoint the auditor. So, is the first shall really shall? Because every shall, if you don't do it, you will have to pay some money and there will be consequences. But here, what is the consequence? If you don't do it, shareholders will do it. So, the first shall is not exactly shall. First shall can be read as may. There are general provisions, all generally may is read as may only, shall is read as shall. Whatever is mandatory is read as mandatory, discretionary read as discretionary. There are only very few cases where mandatory will be read as discretionary and discretionary will be read as mandatory. Here the general, for example, casual vacancy director. Is it mandatory to appoint 161.4 casual vacancy director? No. Casual vacancy auditor? Yes, because it uses the word shall. But some cases shall will be may. For example, this 139.6. In 139.6, that shall will be read as may. So, is it mandatory for you to appoint the first director by, first auditor by the board of directors? No, it is a may. If they fail, can shareholders appoint within 30 days? No, they will only come after the board of directors fail to do so within 30 days. So, this shall will be read as may. Is there any case where may will be read as shall? Yesterday only we saw 161.3. 161.3 nominee director. You may please get out, right? That may will be read as shall. So, in most cases shall will be read as shall, most cases may will be read as may, but in some cases shall will be read as may, some cases may will be read as shall. If you understand this, good. Otherwise, our may will be November. That's the problem. Correct? That should not happen. Our may will be read as November then. So, no, next November. It should not happen. So, if you see, there is the deal. But the second shall, can the board also, can the shareholders also feel that that is also discretionary? No. First shall of 139.6 is may, but second shall of 139.6 is shall. Shareholders have no option but to go ahead and appoint this auditor, first auditor. MCQ question can be the board of directors to appoint within 30 days, okay. On the failure of the board, shareholders to appoint within dash 90 days, that is also fine. 90 days from dash, first 90 days from failure, second 90 days from registration, third 90 days from the day that the board intimates the shareholders that they have failed. No, 30 days is registration of board. I am talking about on the failure of the board, shareholders to appoint within 90 days from which day? 90 days from failure, 90 days from registration only, or 90 days from the day that the board intimates the shareholder that they have failed. What do you think? Board asks them. When I say board tells the shareholder that they have failed, how will they tell them? They will tell them by calling a meeting. So do you think when they're calling a meeting, it should be 3 months? It's actually 21 days only. Notice. Correct? So it cannot be from the day board informs the shareholders. It should either be 90 days from registration or 90 days from failure. Now this is not given. When it's not given, I should always take the conservative view. What is the conservative view? Should I do 30 days and then 90 days? Or should I say this first 30 includes 90? Yes. The old act also said the board of directors should appoint within 1 month. If the board fails, then the shareholders to appoint. That's all. They did not give a timeline. When they asked a doubt, MCA gave an amazing clarification. Within reasonable time they have to do. Then when they figured out what is reasonable time, it was roughly in General Clause Act and all, it was 60 days. 60 days from failure can be read as 90 days from registration. Right? So what should I write? Again, is interpretation of statute. When it is not given, I should always take the conservative view. In section 96 also AGM we saw whichever is earlier. How did you do that? Reasonable construction. Harmonious construction. Here also 90 days at EGM. Do you need 90 days from failure to do 3 months? No. It should be 90 days from registration. So 30 days from registration this happens. 90 days from registration, shareholders should do so. 90 days from registration, shareholders should do so. 90 days from registration can also be read as 60 days from failure. Yes. Mind you, you cannot wait till the AGM because its tenure only is till the AGM. Cannot wait till the AGM. You should do it at the extraordinary general meeting. No, see here they have given the word next. Once you have already given the word next, other one has to be read as next. Right?
That is next 30 days. So 60 days should be
from failure.
Of
board. For failure of C&AG. You meant to say shareholders, no? Yes, from the failure of board. Once next is given, then fine. The next one will be next only. You can't say this is 60 days from registration, not possible, right? Here they have used the word next. 30, this is 60 days from the failure. Failure of whom? Board. So it's easily you can call a meeting within 60 days. You can't say that I could not call within 60 days, it should be done. Here the word next is missing. That's why I have to interpret to be 90 days from the registration. Done. Yeah, tell me. No, the thing is first 30 days will be, they'll be running around to start the company, get things going. You have to set up the office, and it will take some time. That's why the law says if you can do it, great. If you can't do it, it's okay, I'll give it to the shareholders. So actually it's may only, it's not shall. If you can do it, try to do it. Otherwise, why do you want to waste time calling an EGM? Again, it's a waste of money. So just appoint one fellow. Anyway, he'll be there only to the next AGM. Next AGM, or rather the first AGM is the actual AGM where shareholders will come. They'll now appoint their choice, and that fellow will be there for 5 years. Here is like more like a temporary guy. Just be there for the next AGM. That's it. And the idea is you don't break your head and call EGM and all. Just finish off by and appoint the auditor. But 30 days is less time because you need to now stabilize the company. You just started it. So, but in case you cannot do it, it's okay. You can call a general meeting. Sorry? Where is the rule? 60 days of, that is the old act, man. It was there. That you are right. Old act, it was there. A rule was there where you have to hold within the, that is called statutory meeting. That section only has been deleted. That is not there now. Here you need to hold it as soon as possible. EGM and its extraordinary general meeting. Generally, if you see, they use the word general meeting. But this is the first time that you are seeing where they have actually used the word extraordinary general meeting. Which means this can never happen at the AGM. AGM they'll specify, otherwise they'll simply say general meeting. You remember in 160, it said any general meeting. But in 152.6, they said annual general meeting. This is one of the few sections where they have actually specifying extraordinary, they have actually given in the Bear Act, extraordinary general meeting, which means AGM cannot be held. I mean, what I meant was you can't appoint the first auditor at the AGM because his tenure only is till the AGM. Got it? Like that. If they say any GM, it can be AGM or AGM. Even for example, 161(4) casual vacancy. What does it say? You should be approved in the immediately next general meeting. This is one section where they have actually given extraordinary general meeting. Seven, 6 done, 5. This is your subsequent auditor, government controlled company. Subsequent auditor, government controlled company, when will you do? This one, subsequent auditor, government controlled company, C and AG will do it within 180 days from commencement of financial year. 180 days from commencement of financial year. And this fellow's tenure will be till again conclusion of next AGM. Conclusion of next AGM. Mind you, first auditor of government control, non-government control is, first auditor of government control, non-government control is next AGM. Subsequent auditor, government control company also next AGM. We'll just skip 139.1, we'll go to 139.8.2 and 8.1. Tell me, casual vacancy of a government controlled company, whatever may be the reason. Reason can be death, disqualification, whatever may be the reason. And moreover, what is casual vacancy? Auditor was appointed on 10 July. Purchased equity shares on 12 July. 2 days later. Auditor was appointed on 10 July. Purchased equity shares on 8 July. But he purchased on 12 July, accepted the appointment on 15 July. Second case, 10 July, but 2 days before only he had purchased, but still he accepted on 15 July. Auditor was appointed on 10 July, he is qualified for appointment, but he fails to accept the appointment. Auditor was appointed on 10 July, 1 day before only, right, he had died, but the notice of the death reached later. Appointed on 10 July, accepted 15 July, happiness, died on 10 July. Which case or cases will be casual vacancy? In all the cases there is vacancy, but which is casual vacancy? Four, 5, 1, 2, 5, 5. 3 and 5, all of these, none of these. Casual vacancy will come in the office of an auditor after he has been validly appointed and after he has accepted the appointment. In the first case, appointment is invalid because he is disqualified. Second case, before the appointment only he has purchased. Appointment is only void ab initio. Third one, he has failed to accept, so it's not a contract. But there is a vacancy, but not a casual vacancy. Fourth one, destruction of subject matter, Indian Contract Act. Right? In inherent impossibility, void ab initio. Last one is the only case of casual vacancy. Because casual vacancy is valid appointment plus valid acceptance. Valid appointment plus valid acceptance. Casual vacancy will arise after valid appointment and valid acceptance. Reasons can be so many things. Reasons can be what? Death, resignation, disqualification, anything. For a government controlled company, what is the scene? Reason can be anything, but who will fill the vacancy? Comptroller and Auditor General within 30 days. And if they fail, Board of Directors within the next 30 days. For 139.82, it's very simple. C and AG within 30 days. Board of Directors within the next 30 days. Got it? C and AG 30 days, Board of Directors next 30 days. If it is 139.81, then that is my non-government controlled company. For death, disqualification, insanity, board resolution within 30 days. For resignation case, board resolution within 30 days plus shareholders approval within 3 months. This is only for non-government controlled company. And wherever audit committee is needed where paid up capital is 10 crore. See, audit committee only is 10 crore. I'm talking about 100 crore now. Right? Turnover is 100 crore. Loans, borrowing 50 crore. This is for unlisted company. For listed, all listed companies mandatorily have to follow audit committee under 177. Why do I need shareholders approval within 3 months? Because it's resignation. What if there is a scenario where he was forced to resign? I told you I appointed I ran an orphanage and I appointed that one orphan who became a CA. And he is unable to, obviously, I am his godfather, but he is unable to go against me. So the only thing he can do is resign. So the shareholders need to know why he resigned. Is it mandatory for me to give reasons for resignation? In director it was may. Here it is shall. Check out 140 subsection 2 and 3. Some changes are there as per the ordinance and as per the amendment also. 2 and 3. 2 and 3 is my resignation points. 140 subsection 2 and 3. The auditor who has resigned from the company shall file within 30 days statement in the prescribed form. Form number ADT 3. ADT 3. With the company and registrar in case of companies referred to in subsection 5 of 139 with the C and AG obviously. If the auditor does not comply with the provisions, he or it shall be liable to a penalty of 50,000 rupees. Before the amendment, it was only 50,000. Means your audit fee is 10,000. You forgot to give the resignation. How much is the fine? 50. They changed it to amount equal to remuneration, whichever is less. What was the actual change? Amount equal to remuneration, whichever is less. Earlier it was 50,000. There was a case where on 5,000 rupees was the fee. He didn't bother giving resignation. MCA sent a thing. How much? 50,000. Absurd. That's why they added the amendment. And fine has become what? Obviously penalty. Pay the ROC and sort it out. No going to NCLT and all that. And in case of continuing failure with a further penalty of 500 rupees every day. After the first means what? After the first contravention. This is the first contravention. Means from the 31st day you have to pay 50,000 rupees. 32nd day onwards 500 rupees per day. Subject to a maximum of 5 lakh rupees. Done. Next, what else? 140 is done. This is also done. The reasons for resignation. Now, can the shareholders say that I want to appoint within 30 days? No, it is always the board. Shareholders have no power to appoint a casual vacancy auditor. But shareholders can approve within 3 months, no doubt about it. 3 months from which day? 3 months from casual vacancy? 3 months from board recommendation? What is the answer? See, these points MCQ they'll ask, which will always ignore. We know 3 months. 3 months from which date? Three months from board resolution, 3 months from board recommendation to the shareholders telling please appoint this fellow, approve this fellow, or 3 months from casual vacancy. Check out 139.8, what does it say? That's why guys, these small points, no, they keep asking. 139.8, check it out. 3 months of the recommendation of the board. This is the least likely answer for us. Correct? We'll tell 3 months from casual vacancy or 3 months from board resolution. Done. Now 139.1, which is the main section. Recommendation of the board means they will recommend the shareholders kindly appoint this guy, approve this guy. Three months from the recommendation of the board. Correct. First board resolution is passed. Then that same name they'll recommend saying that we already passed the resolution. I am recommending you to appoint this guy, approve this guy. So within 3 months of that date, you have to approve. I can, if AGM is coming, I can wait till the AGM, or 3 months, within 3 months if AGM is happening, otherwise I'll call an EGM. Every company shall. Now comes the main section. Every company shall, at the first annual general meeting, appoint an individual or a firm as an auditor. Every company. This applies to all types of companies that you can ever think of, who shall hold the office from the conclusion of that meeting, that is the first meeting, the conclusion of its 6th annual general meeting. So every 5 years. Can I appoint him for like 2 years and all, or it should be 5 years? Shall be 5 years. Unlike independent director who can be appointed up to 5 years, here they have used the word shall. So I have to appoint him for 5 years. Does this section apply to the first annual general meeting of every company held after the commencement of Companies Act? Or does this section apply to the first ever AGM of every new company incorporated after Companies Act? I repeat, does this section apply to the first AGM held of any company? Doesn't matter, that company can be 40 years old, 20 years old, 30 years old, but immediately upon the commencement of the Companies Act. Or does this section apply to only the first ever AGM of every new company incorporated after Companies Act? First one or second one? First one is what? First AGM of any company, I don't care, but held immediately after the commencement of the Companies Act. That could be the 43rd AGM, doesn't matter. Or does it apply to the first ever AGM of every new company incorporated under Companies Act? It is again one word. Answer is number 1. Every company shall at the first AGM, not at its first AGM. Yes, the first AGM means what? The first ever AGM of every company held immediately after the commencement of Companies Act. This anyway includes 2. If I am a new company, obviously that is also covered in 1 only, right? After the Act uses the word the, then it can use the word its. Then it's like continuation. If here if they use the word its, then the answer will change. Entire law is about this only. Such, the, its, that's all. May, shall, same thing. Right, at the first AGM. Which one? No transition. That is rotation. Right? And that's the thing. What is the procedure, guys, of 139.1? Very simple. First, this is read with everything. One is, first I'll give a written consent. Who will give? Auditor. Second, he will give a certificate in writing. What all will the certificate have? First of all the terms and conditions are followed. I am not disqualified under 141. I have followed the ceiling limits. And next I should give all the pending professional ethics point, misconduct if any. Then third one, audit committee wherever applicable will recommend my name. If they recommend A's name, they will send it to the board of director. Board of director also feels A is good, that name will go to the shareholders. Audit committee will recommend B, but board of director feel A is good. A's name anyway again goes back to audit committee. Audit committee compares A and B and again sends back A, saying yes, you're right, A is better than B in the context of this particular company. Then no tension, again A's name will go. But the problem will arise when audit committee is stuck on A, but board of directors want B. Then yes, both the names will go to the shareholders with detailed reasons by the board as to why B may be slightly better than A. And it's the shareholders' choice. Technically, can shareholders recommend somebody else also if they want to? Yes. But generally they'll follow whatever the board tells them, because the board knows best as regards how to go about all these things. Correct? Now, the shareholder now passes an ordinary resolution appointing the auditor from first AGM to 6th AGM. First to 6th AGM. In between I have 2nd, 3rd, 4th, 5th. Before the Companies Amendment Act, there was a concept called ratification. Ratification is nothing but again passing ordinary resolution. Is the term 5 years or is the term 1 year? What do you think, guys? Term is 5 years or 1 year? 5 years, obviously. If I throw out the auditor any time before 5 years, if I throw out the auditor any time before 5 years, it would amount to removal before expiry of the term. Removal before expiry of the term always requires 140 subsection 1, special resolution and central government approval. But at the 2nd, 3rd, 4th, 5th AGM, if I remove, or rather if I don't ratify, that would be ordinary resolution. Right? So by passing an ordinary resolution, I could have actually removed you by circumventing 140 subsection 1. Always while interpreting a liberal section and a restrictive section, I should go for restrictive. So even if ratification was anyway there, I would anyway have followed 140 subsection 1. So why should I keep ratification? No point. So ratification has been removed. Now it's very simple. I have appointed you from 1st AGM to 6th AGM. At 6th AGM, I am going to reappoint you. Between 1st and 6th, if I want to throw you out, 140 subsection 1. Which means in the second, third, fourth, fifth AGM, is there any need for me to reappoint you? No. Because I have appointed you for 5 years. Why will I reappoint you? Are you getting my point? Do I need to approve? Nothing. Ratification is removed. What are the 4 things that happen at an AGM? Adda or Dada points. So, Dada points happen in first AGM. Dada points happen in 6th AGM. In second, third, fourth, appointment of auditor is not there. It becomes dad points. Technically now, only dad points happen in second, third, fourth, fifth AGM. There is really no need for me to appoint. It is not appointment of auditor, mind you. Ratification is removed. So I don't have to follow anything now. Correct? So this is the procedure. And after this, of course, if I want to touch upon audit also, one extra thing will happen. So 2 things will happen. The company ADT 1 is filed by dash. Company, auditor, both. What do you think? Who should file? Yes, if you see there, provided that the auditor concerned shall inform the auditor concerned his or its appointment and also file a notice of such appointment with the registrar within 15 days and also file a notice of such appointment with the registrar within 15 days of the meeting. ADT 1 should be filed by company. Who files it? We know. Yes, it should be filed by the company though. Company should file ADT 1 informing the ROC as well as informing the auditor within 15 days. Lastly, I will give a audit engagement letter under SA 210. In the exam they have asked ADT 1 was not filed by, let's say, casual vacancy auditor, or ADT 1 was not filed by first auditor. What are the consequences? Will you say auditor need not file, company should file? Company also did not file casual vacancy auditor's appointment and audit this thing, first auditor's appointment. Will 147.1 come? What is 147.1? They ask you in the exam, what will you write? If any of the provisions of section 139 to 146 is contravened, company shall be punishable with 25,000. Will you write this? The company did not file ADT 1 when the first auditor was appointed, or the company did not file ADT 1 when, let's say, the casual vacancy auditor was appointed. Comment. $15 days from? After AGM or appointment? 15 days from date of appointment. So if it is not filed, will 147.1 come? You see, check out here 139.1. Provided that before such appointment is made, written consent is needed. Also that the company shall inform the auditor of his or its appointment and also file a notice of such appointment. We have already seen the Supreme Court decision. When an adjective such is added to a noun, prefix to a noun, it will mean the preceding part of the sentence. Preceding part of the sentence is 139.1. That is subsequent auditor of a non-government controlled company. So ADT 1 is not needed for first auditor government controlled, first auditor non-government controlled, subsequent auditor government controlled, casual vacancy government controlled, casual vacancy non-government controlled, not needed at all. That is the answer. However, written consent is needed because the MCA has told ignore this such. They can tell whatever they want. MCA has released a notification saying ignore the first such. Means the written consent everyone has to give. But second such don't ignore. Means the second such will still remain. Means who will have to give ADT 1? Only the subsequent auditor of a non-government controlled company. These are all the hidden points. This has been asked in the exam also. Right? So who should give ADT 1? Only subsequent auditor of a non-government controlled company. Subsequent auditor of a non-government controlled company. Appointment includes reappointment. Appointment includes reappointment also, no problem. Appointment includes reappointment. Now if I want to draw the appointment authority wise chart quickly, appointment authority, just like a revision sort of a thing. Tell me guys, who all? First I am going to draw appointment authority being the C and AG. And I will also throw in CG to see whether it's there or not. Then board of directors. Then shareholders. Tell me guys, C and AG, who all? First auditor, government controlled company, how many days? 60 days. Second, first auditor, non-government controlled company, 180 days from commencement of, government control. I have to do subsequent audit. Subsequent auditor of a government controlled company, 180 days from the commencement of financial year. Third one, casual vacancy, government controlled company, 30 days. Casual vacancy, government controlled company, 30 days. In all our discussions, have we heard CG anywhere? CG? No, but read 140 subsection 5. Subsection 5. Practically invoked in the ILFS scam. Government moves NCLT to seek 5-year ban on Deloitte and KPMG affiliate BSR. Under which section? 140. Under 140 subsection 5, the NCLT can, after going through everything, can invoke this section. Correct? Where they say, I want to ban for 5 years. It's there only, 140 subsection 5. Then they can instruct the central government to do so. Central government can now appoint one more auditor in the place of the auditor who has been removed. First time ever invoked under ILFS scam. Full group. That's the idea now. Big 4 has become small 4 now. Gone. No longer big. That's why you see they're scared and everywhere resigning. Reliance Capital resigned because they know if anything happens, gone for them, resign. There is a practical application, 140 subsection 5, where the old auditor will be thrown out for 5 years and will appoint a new auditor in his place. Who will appoint? CG, no other fellow, CG. Board of directors, who all? First auditor, government controlled company, if C and AG fails. 60, 30, 60, 30 days. Next. First auditor, non-government controlled company, 30 days from registration. Correct, no? Third, will they come under subsequent auditor and all? Subsequent auditor, government controlled company, if C and AG fails, not there. C and AG cannot fail, just like us, right? Then next, non-government controlled company, can shareholders fail? No. Next, casual vacancy, government controlled company, if C and AG fails, then also 30 days. Fourth one, casual vacancy, non-government controlled company, if C and AG, no C and AG, what? Board only appoints. How many days? 5. Next. Next. Internal auditor, 138. Who will appoint? Internal auditor, 138. Then that ignored fellow, Papa, at least let us actually take his name once. Cost auditor, also appointed by board of directors, at least once. Poor guy. Section 148. Internal auditor 138, cost auditor 140. Cost auditor have the same powers like a CA, no tension. In the cost audit, whatever the CA does, mutatis mutandis, what he does for financial accounts, he can do for cost records. Powers, duties, everything is the same. But the appointment authority is 148. And he has good powers where the report will go to the central government, all those things. Good powers, not that is not like an internal auditor, right? That's the thing. Shareholders. Everything else other than that we can't write. We have to actually write down, no? I can't say everything others, rest of the cases. First one, first auditor, government controlled company, if board also fails. 60, 30, 60. First auditor, non-government company, if board fails. 90 days. Third, subsequent auditor, non-government controlled company, appointment at the first AGM till 6th AGM by passing ordinary resolution. Casual vacancy, non-government controlled company, resignation case only within 3 months. Last but not the least, branch auditor under 143 subsection 8 also will be done by this guy. So this chart will help us understand appointment authority. Who are the appointment authorities as per the Companies Act? Then quickly tell me, in rotation the only thing that really matters is this chart. They will give also rotation. The concept of rotation was added why? To give everyone chance. More often than not, you also would have worked in your obviously firm. Your boss, when he started his audit practice 20 years ago, The first client will still remain. And now it becomes almost so much, like family members. They'll meet up for dinner once in a way, right? So where is the independence? This fellow will go to that guy's Griha Pravesha, all that. So everything. The thing is, where is the independence? It has happened many times that you, in all Josh, would have raised all queries for that particular company, and you have gone to your boss. He has already signed the audit report also. Correct? So the thing is, the rotation was needed, where that independence was always retained. But this rotation is implemented in US, China, Japan, Singapore, and many other, Russia also, many other developed countries and upcoming developing countries. But they have all implemented 10 years ago and deleted that provision also from their respective BEAR Acts. Universal failure has become India's attempt now. We have taken up the thing. Why is it a failure, by the way? It's a very noble thing, right? To have this thing, rotation. Why is it a universal failure? Because I'm talking about big companies now. By the time you figure out what work is going on, you will take minimum 5-6 years to understand the full process in such a manner that even now, if you're going to change the processes, I'll be able to adapt to it. So you can actually try and give amazing audit reports only after the 6th year. That's the observation. 3-4 years you can give good audit reports. But here they are saying, the moment you get into the groove, now time for you to leave. What is the rotation policy? For an individual, 5 years. For a firm, 2 terms of 5 years each. After that, cooling period mandatorily 5. In 5 years, many things can change. And can you come back after 5 years? Yes. But then it's like starting from scratch. And when the management has given you all its efforts and resources and trained you for 3-4 years, in 2 years you have to change. That has actually happened across the world. So they have realized that the cost has increased, time has increased, management has to give extra time to each auditor now. The only thing that remains constant across the world is stipend, article curve. That will not change. Everything else has increased. Fees has increased. So it's a universal failure, though it's a very good thought, rotation. But this, they'll ask you, what type of companies will go for rotation? All listed companies, yes, and the following class companies, other than OPC and SC. Other than 1% company and small company. Unlisted company, paid up capital, other unlisted company paid up capital 10 crore. Private company paid up capital 50 crore. Here also 100 is not there. Right? Private limited paid up capital 50. This is the maximum ever. Then all other companies whose PUC is less than, this was 20 before, they have changed it to 50. All other companies whose PUC is less than the above, but borrowings from banks or financial institutions is 50 crore. Now there are certain doubts raised. When should I see this? That's the thing. Previous audited balance sheet and all that. And what will happen if it is more than 50 crore? Like my borrowings is more than 50 crore last year. Okay, rotation is applicable. 1 or 2 years have already continued. Now they have repaid everything. Then is it once applicable, always applicable? During the year. Now, and this came on 1st April 2014, and there were 3 years period till 31st March 17. Which means now this year actually you have to see 17-18 last year should have seen all these things. Still people were not following, and they asked the doubt to MCI, they were also not responding. So ICI did a blunder, if you know, recently. They released a notification on their own saying that I should see last year, and if it reduces then I should do this, do that and all those things. In 3 days MCA sent a letter. Who the hell are you to send a notification? It was shameful actually. MCA had sent one letter, you can check out online. Shameful. You will read and you will laugh and you won't know what to say. They say that the power of notifications is vested only with the Ministry of Corporate Affairs. You have no authority to give any notification. Like that, properly they blasted. In the end, you are hereby kindly requested to withdraw the notification. Immediately next day only they had to withdraw. Why simply all that? Some secretary had signed one letter and had sent to the CA Institute. So even till today we don't know which year you have to see and all that. But practically they are checking the previous year. At the time of appointment, previous year they are seeing whether all these things are there. And conservatively you have to see once applicable, always applicable. Conservatively. But then again there is no such notification as such. But this table is important. And proprietor individual 1 term, the other fellow 2 terms of 5 years each. Firm. Transitional period was at 3 years. That is till 31st March 17. But then they changed that also to say that the first AGM held after 3 years. By that time you should adopt everything. What is the first AGM held after 3 years? That is first AGM held for the year ended 31st March 17. Will be 30th September 17. By that time they have to figure out what's the deal. That is about rotation. Can I also pass a resolution saying that rotation is 2 terms of 5 years each? Every year I want a different signing partner. That is one question. Second question, I want joint auditors. Joint auditors is 2 different firms. That's okay. But in this firm only, every 2 to 2 years I want change in partner. Every year I want change in signing partner. Yes, 139 3A 3B. One 139 3A and 3B. One 139 3A and 3B. Three A is what? Same firm changing. 3B is joint audit. So 139 3B is the legal section for SA 299. SA 299 legal sanction is obtained in 139 3B. Sorry, yeah, discretion, totally discretion of the company. But 139 3B will become mandatory for other laws. Like Insurance Act clearly says you need to have joint audit. So that time this becomes mandatory. But 139 3A is definitely discretionary. Then also in rotation, an interesting thing is, after 2 terms, the last year can I join one more firm, start one new firm and then shift everything? But then again there is a doubt. It says common partner should not be there. But does it mean common signing partners? Like for example, I was a signing partner here. I join another firm, there I don't want to be a signing partner. Is that covered? Or the other way around, I was not a signing partner here. But there I shifted the firm, there I want to be signing partner. Or both cases, no signing partners. For example, IDT partner of this firm left his firm and became IDT partner of that firm. He has no link to this company. So just because he's a common partner or he was a common partner, can I just exclude that company from doing the audit? All these are some gray areas which still have not been addressed. So we have to wait for MCA clarifications. And ICI is full scared, no? If they want to do, these fellows will come. Who are you to tell? That's the thing. So they are not doing it. So these are all some gray areas still pending. You have to wait and watch what will happen. Then quickly one more is removal 140 subsection 1. So we did all the appointment, everything done. We'll do removal.